Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Future of Biztech. I am your host, JC Granger. I have with me here Andy Cabasso, who is the founder of Postaga. Andy, thank you so much for coming on the show. Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, JC. Happy to be here. So a little bit about me. I used to be a lawyer, and I guess I'm still a lawyer. I'm not like disbarred or anything like that.
That's good
But
to know, by the way.
yeah, I guess I have to like throw that in. Like, I don't know. I don't got one of those the guy from Breaking Bad kind of situation. I don't know. Anyway, so used to be a lawyer and found myself in digital marketing. In particular, because when I was applying to work at law firms, they all had really bad websites, and I was like, I could do something about this. I have a little bit of a background, and a partner of mine, we started a digital agency specifically focusing on that vertical, grew the agency, sold it, got acquired by a larger company in the legal industry, and kind of from the experiences that I got running an agency, I started Postaga, which is a tool for marketers to help them build links, do digital PR, get connections to journalists and press, and also do cold outreach. And so yeah, we kind of built that from our learnings as an agency and trying to find a repeatable, scalable way to do link building outreach.
See, that's really cool because I love MarTech, right? I mean, I'm a
Mhm.
marketing guy too. I have an agency, so when I hear about stuff like this, my tail wags, right? My ears perk up kind of thing. So let me ask you a question. So I remember a software called Yesware, which
Mhm.
was kind of a piggyback onto Gmail, and it kind of had this similar feel where, you can pull in, contacts and then
Mhm.
and send it out. It was for PR, right? To kind of just see who
Yeah.
was the, so it sounds like, and I've taken a little tour of your software.
Mhm.
It seems like you have this mix between this outreach version of Yesware and the database version of something like one of those big like PR softwares
Mhm.
like Meltwater or something like that, right? That
Mhm.
has all that. Am I kind of correct here? Is it a combination in there, or is it something completely different? I'm totally off.
Yeah, so yeah, it kind of like combines a few like different tools. It kind of like combines a few different tools in one. So it combines like the like researching and prospecting kind of tools that you find like elements of like Ahrefs or something like that, or a Zoom info or something like that for finding relevant blogs and businesses and websites and stuff like that. Combining that with contact finding tools. Like we have a native integration with LinkedIn to make sure we can find the right people at these businesses to connect with. An email finding and verification aspect to it. Tools like you see like hunter.io it's a popular one. We integrate with them. And then there's the email outreach component to it. Like Yesware, like you mentioned, like it helps create personalized outreach emails to all of the contacts. So instead of spending hours and hours through this whole process of prospecting and finding emails and personalizing emails for everyone, our software helps automate and streamline that.
So let's talk about, so let's
Yeah.
walk the audience through kind of almost visually in their mind what
Mhm.
it's like to use a software, and who is it for, right? Like, who gets the
Mhm.
biggest benefit out of this? What problems are they dealing with that this solves? And then, what is it like to use the software? You say link building, and then we talk about PR, but then people
Mhm.
kind of get thrown over. They're like, well, how does reaching out to reporters, link building, or you know what I mean? So yeah,
Yeah.
like, who does it help, and kind of walk us through it a little bit.
So yeah, we have a few different use cases, which is why I'll talk about something like link building or PR or like cold outreach for sales, because the workflow it's a very simple workflow from kind of beginning to end. So you have whatever you're like at the end of the day, what it helps you do is it helps you find like research and find relevant websites or businesses that you want to connect with, finds their email addresses, and helps create personalized out pitches and email sequences for them. So that's what it does at the end of the day. But it's also useful in specific contexts. So like for link building, for example, let's say I've got a blog article and I want to build links to it to help me increase my search rankings, so I can get more traffic and more customers. So I've got an article that I want to build links to. With Postaga, I could find relevant websites that I want to pitch my article to, find the contact people, and then have a tailored, personalized email for them to ask them to check out my article and possibly link to it. For like digital PR, which there's a lot of overlap, I think, with digital PR and SEO nowadays, because at the end of the day, when another blog is citing or mentioning your business, that builds links to your business also. But I think there's kind of like some distinguishing between that in terms of like how
like
people
guest
go about
posting and things like that, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so like, well, one common thing that we've seen with like people like in the digital PR space is like, let's say I've got an e-commerce brand and I want other blogs to write about my products and like do like lengthy reviews about them, or like I've got a software business and I want other blogs to like catch on to it. I see that, like as an example, let's say I make a CRM. There are a lot of CRMs out there, but let's say I've got a really particular CRM that I think is great and it's the best, and I want other blogs to write about it. Let's see, I can find blogs that have written articles about ActiveCampaign and HubSpot and pitch them from the perspective of, hey, I saw you did this really great article about ActiveCampaign. Since your audience is interested in CRMs, here's a new unique CRM that you haven't written about yet. What do you think about that? I'm happy to give you a demo. I'm happy to we have an affiliate program, happy to share the information about that with you as well, kind of stuff like that. And that's like the digital PR angle to this and how people use that. And then the last major use case is like sales cold outreach for like B2B, so finding potential customers and finding their info and then pitching them to check out your product or service.
So yeah, it does have kind of that Zoom info feel from the sales. I didn't know it had the sales part to it, by the way. When I was looking at it, I got dialed in and focused into the because here's what I really liked about your software with the demo when I was looking at it, was that there was this screen where basically it said, what type of campaign do you want to run? And it gave me like 6 options, right? And it said, do you want, guest post kind of thing, or you're trying to get links, or you're trying to reach out to people, and had all these options, which I thought was really cool because it runs you through this flow. But I didn't see the sales part of it, so that's interesting that it has that aspect. So you said you have a native integration in a LinkedIn. How hard was that to get, by the way? How many hoops did you have to jump through to get a native API into the most locked down platform on the planet?
So I might have phrased that wrong. That's a good question. I'm not the development technical person on the team, but we have an integration with LinkedIn that pulls relevant data for contact people from LinkedIn. Got it. I guess maybe native integration is not the right phrase.
I was going to say, listen, they exist, but to apply to get one of those with them, is the most chaotic and process. But no, I do see, there's Zapier integrations and things like that, where you can pull information through. Okay, that makes more sense, because I was like, boy, how hard did you have to pull your hair out for that one? So walk me through a little bit here. What motivated you to really do this? I know you mentioned, that it's your kind of origin story was you're a lawyer and they really sucked at websites, but that's a far, gap between that part of the story versus where you ended up. So like, really, what was the progression? What problems were you trying to solve, and how did it keep going down this path?
Yeah. So one kind of common thing for agencies is if you're doing SEO for clients, you want to help them rank better, get more traffic, so they're happy with your services, they stay with you, and you can kind of grow your agency and make sure your clients are happy. There are a lot of agencies out there that offer SEO services, and a lot of people who have been burned by SEO agencies. So, but like one thing that we were really seeing is one of the most impactful things is link building. The amount of links from other relevant websites pointing to your particular website has a huge impact on your website's traffic and search rankings. And we wanted to see if we could find a way to do that organically from real relevant websites to help our clients. But the process as it existed at the time when we had our agency was very disjointed, and it just it wasn't scalable for us. Like we couldn't do link building for our clients without charging them many thousands of dollars per month. That was like beyond what our clients were willing to pay. And it was very, very labor intensive. So we wanted to see if there was a way that we could just streamline this process. And that's how we ended up building Postaga.
So how much time does this save, let's say an agency or a business that subscribes on its own? I mean, to link build and to get, the SEO quality and whatnot, how much time do you think someone is saving just by using this?
Hours per week, if not days. So like I know some agencies have people on their teams that just do link building, and they've done things very manual in terms of like they'll go into search engines, they'll like comb or scrape results and then review all of that. And then from there, like our workflow really mimics the process of what people have been doing manually, and just streamlines it, automates it. But like we have a few case studies of users who said like, I used to spend hours and hours a week, if not days per week, just building these kinds of campaigns that that you're able to do in just like 10 minutes of time in
Wow.
Postaga. So yeah.
So how do you prioritize the new features that come out? I mean, what's really, are you doing a lot of client feedback? Is it more of, the path of least resistance on what takes the less time to code in, things like that? How do you prioritize like what's going to be coming out for the software?
So we get a lot of user feedback, which has been really good for us. And we also have, analytics and statistics, and we see like what's the most popular, what are people spending the most time on, and what do they want to see. And we're also trying to be mindful of like, for us, like as we grow and build this product, where do we see the direction of it going? And so we have we built our priorities around that. Like we have some, like we see, more and more automation being key to this. So for example, like we get a lot of people like interested in Postaga who are like, you know what, our company doesn't do a lot of link building now, but we're interested in it being one part of like a strategy that we implement. So what can we do? And through our onboarding process, we help people out as much as we can. But there's still definitely, for some more novice users, a very educational component that needs to take place. So we've been developing more and more automated and streamlined features that, like with the push of just a button, it's like, here's my website, Postaga kind of will crank out ideas of campaigns that you could run, basically running them all for you to a certain extent.
That's really cool. So let me ask you a little personal question here. Let's go back. So I ask this one every now and then, but I am curious about you for this.
Yeah.
What did you want to do? Like, what did you want to be when you grew up, when you were a kid, right? And then does that match what you're doing now or what you've done? And if not, kind of like, how did you get to where you're at? Just what was your dream as a kid? And then where's that path lead you?
When I was a kid, I wanted to direct movies. I was definitely like, I was in, no one's asked me. I like this. Thinking about this now, I was into like, I took like film classes in high school, and made movies with friends and stuff like that. And I was definitely interested in that. How did I get into running a business? Now I have like, where did I stray? Where
did you go from wanting to be a director to a lawyer, right? Like, I mean, that was the first.
Oh man, that's a great question. No idea. How'd I end up being?
It seemed like a good idea at the time.
Yeah, it seemed like a good. I think that's probably the answer. Is it seemed like a good idea.
There was always a girl involved here. Was it to impress a girl?
No, actually, like my wife,
your mom counts. Maybe it was impress your mom, be a lawyer. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe the parents wanted me to be a lawyer, and that was it. But yeah,
you're happier now though. It looks like doing this, which is good. That's what matters. Very cool. So the future of BizTech, I talk a lot about kind of what's coming down the pipeline. First, let
Mhm.
me ask you this. The first question is, where do you see your industry going, let's say 5, 10 years? And by that, let me define
Mhm.
that. I'm talking specifically about SaaS companies that deal
Mhm.
with, MarTech SaaS,
Mhm.
specifically in the SEO link building field, because there's a lot of competitors out there, right? But
Mhm.
yours is interesting because yours combines a lot of stuff. But where do you see your industry going? Where do you see the technology of link building or outreach and things like that and automation? Where do you see that going in 5, 10 years?
Well, so in that, at least in the very like short term, I'm seeing a lot more in terms of like automation, and AI in particular, like in terms of like uncovering opportunities to uh, basically automating as much of this process that's been traditionally very manual as possible. I know they're like, in terms of like SEO and that space in general, there's like a lot of interest in like AI,
Mhm.
GPT-3 kind of technology with
Yeah.
everything from research to content creation. And I'm seeing that in email personalization as well. It's still pretty young, but there are a lot of companies exploring that. So aside from, basically taking out as much of the labor intensive parts of marketing and analysis as possible is where this is all heading.
That AI part is interesting. I recently subscribed to Copy.ai. I don't know if you.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. Let me. Copy.ai. What a crazy good software, because there's what I thought it was going to be. Right. It sounded good already, and then I went in there and I started playing around with it, and I thought, okay, well, that the AI, it'll spit out some like email subject lines is what I was going for example,
Yeah.
right? And I thought, okay, and it only asked two questions. It was like, tell us the name of the product or the service, and then give like a 1 sentence description. That was it. I thought that's really not a lot of information. So I
Uh-huh.
pumped this out, I hit go, and I'm blown away. I mean,
Mhm.
the stuff that it came up with was pure gold. And I mean, I've been doing digital marketing 20 years. I'm an email marketing guy by trade, and this blew me away. So I guess my question is this, and for one, I'm going to ask you this straight up too: is you've already heard of Copy.ai, obviously. Do you have any plans to integrate some of that type of AI? Because again, with what you're doing with the outreach, are you going to do any kind of native integration with them by any chance, or are you going to build your own
Mhm.
AI to compete with that to help for your software? Because I mean, that
Mhm.
type of AI integration to what you're doing, it could be incredible.
So we do have some AI elements already to what we do in terms of things like prospecting, but there's definitely going to be more coming down the road in terms of what we see like we're building a lot of data right now to know things that like right now with outreach, a lot of it for people just starting out, it's a guess. You have no idea if this copy is going to get a response from any of the people that you're reaching out to. But the more people using our platform, the more data we get to know, okay, here is the likelihood that Neil Patel responds to this email that you're sending out, you know?
Yeah. Oh, so
Um,
like a ranking score of the percentage of chance of them replying.
that stuff is definitely interesting to me, and things that we're interested in. Like we're seeing all of like we know what our users copy is, and we're seeing how that performs. And so that's kind of the AI stuff that I'm interested in particular.
That's cool. So what do you have coming out soon? Like I said, this podcast kind of drops about a couple months after we record, but what are some new features that is going to be coming out soon that my audience can kind of either
Yeah.
already by the time they listen go check out or see coming down soon on the
Yeah.
pipeline?
So as of today in mid-May 2021, uh, right now, if you're looking to like build an outreach campaign in Postaga, whether it's for digital PR or for link building, there is a kind of a workflow that helps you kind of choose the type of campaign that you want to run. But you kind of have like, you need to input some like search keywords and things like that. In the next few weeks, I think for sure by the time that this episode drops, we're going to have this feature that we're really excited about, which basically take your website and give you specific recommendations of outreach campaigns that you can run and already build them for you, basically. So you could, yeah. So
what kind of finds it'll maybe, let's say I have a bunch of blogs. It would say, listen, this blog is ripe right here for the picking, and these are the pages that we think you should reach out to, and here's already the pre-built campaign to do it. So it just crawls your site and says, here's a low-hanging fruit, go nuts, and it's already ready for you. Make a little edit and then hit send, kind of thing.
Exactly.
That's cool. That's very cool. Thank you. See, yeah. I love that. I love getting those inside scoops. If for nothing else, because I mean, I guess, me and you are talking now, so I actually get to hear it before anyone else.
Right. I mean, normally I'm like, all right, this is a closely guarded secret. Can't tell anyone about that. But yeah, as long as the episode isn't dropping tomorrow or anything like that.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna keep. I might let it go a little later just so I can get this myself. I'm kidding.
Well, I will let you know personally when this is out.
Good. No, I definitely want to know that for sure. So let me ask you this. I talk to a lot of business owners. You're on your second business in a sense, right? Being a lawyer is in itself, a business, and you're on this one now. What is the best advice that you've ever been given in business that you could share with the audience that just changed how you looked at things or really helped you?
Best advice I've been given in,
or best advice you could give just from your own experience.
I think from my own experience, the one thing I would tell anyone that I ever work with, anyone that I ever hire, especially, is just stay curious and don't stop trying to learn more, because you level up your game, the less satisfied you become with blog posts or things that you think are giving you answers on something. Like for marketers especially, test everything out, test it out yourself, run A/B tests, try and just never be satisfied with the amount of knowledge that you feel like you have, and don't just rely on that exclusively. It's great to keep getting experience and keep learning new things, and being all right, that'll inform your decisions for what marketing channels and things like that to work on. But don't stop trying to get into more, trying to learn more, and just improve your skills, because it's going to up your game. It's going to make you more valuable and make everything that you do much more successful.
Well, I completely agree, especially coming from that industry. So yeah.
Yeah, for marketing especially, I've hired many people in the past, and I've seen the ones that end up being the most successful in their roles and end up progressing are the ones that just stay curious and ask a lot of questions. And if you're working at a company and you're worried oh, I'm bothering my boss, I'm asking too many questions, or I'm just curious about this one thing, that I've just seen that taking that curiosity and never being satisfied and just being complacent really can have just a huge impact on the organization that you're in and for your career.
So, and this might sound like a dumb question given that you have a software that really helps with this, but outside of using your own software for yourself, obviously to promote Postaga, which I imagine you obviously use for yourself, what other types of marketing are you doing to promote Postaga? What's working? What maybe didn't work? My audience sometimes gets a lot of value from kind of just hearing what's out there and what is and isn't working.
For sure, yeah. Oh man, what isn't working? What isn't working is always the more interesting thing, right? It's all right, maybe I can save you some time.
Time and money, yeah.
So I guess there are some things that are not as quantifiable that I'm trying to better quantify. So for example, I personally am very bad, I think, at social media. It's not it's something I'm really trying on, but it's not a skill that I have personally. But one piece of advice that we got from another a startup that in a similar space was, one thing that's going to be helpful for you is building an online community related to your specific niche and your product. And so far that has been a really good thing for us. So like what we did right before we launched, we built a private Facebook group dedicated to outreach and link building. And it's been good for us. Now that I'm talking about it, I wish I had better numbers for it. But it's been like, there's definitely been like a lot of work to put into it, but it's been very good for keeping people engaged. Also, like as another channel aside from email, it lets our users know what's going on, what we're working on. For me also, it's like been good for like, also like as another channel for support. So, because sometimes people will like, it's like, hey, I'm trying to solve for this problem. Does anyone have any recommendations? And outside of like me answering support tickets, I have other users in the community also that can help and chime in and have been great for giving ideas. I've sourced a lot of our own blog posts and content just from conversations that have happened in our like private Facebook community. So like that's been good for us also. Like I hadn't really thought of that before starting this business, but like since getting that advice and doing it, I would definitely do that again and if you're starting a SaaS business in particular, or really, I don't know, most any business, I would definitely look into some sort of like social community. There are a lot of options out there. You're like, all right, do I want to do a Facebook community, or do I want to do something like Slack or Discord? I personally didn't want to do like Slack or Discord because those conversations are much more ephemeral and instant. Like if I miss something in Slack, then it's gone forever in 10 minutes, but something with Facebook, you don't need to be like present there all the time. So that's
really
kind of,
smart. Yeah, that's a good idea.
that's
I like that.
one thing. What else? Other channels and things like that. I guess what would be no surprise to anyone, organic SEO and content marketing are extremely important. Create content, create lead magnets on your best content pages, to help make sure that the people who visit your website get into your ecosystem, get onto your newsletters, so you can then throw them into a drip sequence of getting them to sign up for your product if they haven't yet. And for anyone who signs up for your product or service, have some sort of educational series to get them to check it out and to upgrade from whatever plan they're on to another plan or something like that.
Yeah, I mean the money's in the list, right? That's what I always was taught and learned and agree with. You got the list. It's like an ATM machine. You push buttons, money comes out.
I feel like definitely like the people who've been doing like digital marketing from the earliest days are like I am the best at really using that email list. And I don't, yeah, I just, yeah, I got nothing more to add to that. Yeah.
That's all right. Listen, Andy, I'm so glad that you came on the show. I love the software, like I said, and even after we jump off this, I have more questions for you. Just
Sure.
on a side note here, but how can the audience check out Postaga? Where do they go? And then how can they reach out to you personally if they have some higher level partnership kind of ideas or anything like that?
For sure. So we have a 2-week free trial. You can check that out at postaga.com. That's postaga.com. I'm pretty easy to find on the internet because there are not any other Andy Cabassos. So you could find me on Twitter at Andy Cabasso. LinkedIn, it's Andrew Cabasso, because I don't know, it sounds maybe a bit more professional. I don't know. And our private Facebook group that's all about outreach and link building is called Grow Together SEO. So yeah, check that out. Awesome. Also.
Perfect. Andy, thank you so much for being on the show, and look forward to talking to you soon and check out the software even more.
Awesome. Thanks, JC.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.